in Clickitat County is folklore, and it spans on every level and every department. What your family name is, what connection you have, whether you're going to get that permit, whether you're going to have that land sliced to this amount in this size, even if that land, and I told you in the last meeting, every day I stare outside my back window, which was a shim-sham land deal, where literally my backyard was cut in half. That means my drain field was cut in half and sold for $160,000. And we were closing on that day when that happened. There was no access road to this land. It was not, and never was, it never will be a buildable lot. And it was a shim-sham land deal. And transparency, I want to see it where you come and do business, not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Goldendale, but you get to where the people are and do the business and stop, we built the Pioneer Center and you barely use it. And I really feel it's important.
Please,
Thank you.
So, not to that. We've got this discussion.
We will have it, so it's made right.
So I will go either to an actual question or...
yeah, if we could keep any comments leading up to a question to 10 seconds or less.
Okay, so I will do a rebuttal as far as on the budget. Totally not, yes. Things are being taken out of context. If the budget was 30 million in 2007 and it's 63 million in 2014, that's the operating budget of the county has actually declined under mine. We cut, anybody here that is a elected official knows, we actually cut staff as far as the operating. But the 63 million, that's the capital budget. And yes, we have done a lot of construction over the new radio system project, that's in there. Wastewater treatment plant increases, that's in there. Road projects, that's in there. This county is the envy of any county in the state. We are in great shape. All of those projects that we've done, we haven't asked for one tax increase, levy lift, or has anybody heard of that? Or bonds. We didn't borrow, we didn't do anything. The county, we have our reserves are in great shape. What we're doing is we're actually doing the business of the people. We are building these projects that you have asked for, and we're doing it with existing revenue. So I don't know if that's being fiscally irresponsible, and you re-elect me, I pledge I'm going to keep doing that. So you have a clear choice.
So
that was my rebuttal, so I'll go sit down. I'll go to my corner.
Okay, we have time for, we had 2 questions there? Yeah. I don't know how we want to handle that. Okay, let's go first.
You talked about, you're concerned about the debt the county has, and this question came up in Trout Lake. Davenport was awash in sewage. The county had to take out those loans to make that wastewater treatment plant. Would you have done that?
Absolutely. There are certain projects that absolutely have to be done. They're prescribed by the state. That falls under something that the state would tell the county that must be done. Public sanitation is one of the things. Mr. Sauter says that we wanted the radio system built. I'm not sure that anybody in here actually wanted that built. It was prescribed to us from the federal government. It wasn't something that we wanted. What about the Dallasport Industrial Park expansion project? That's $600,000 over budget right now. It was originally budgeted for $1.5 million. It's now at $2.1 million. That's another project that's it's not on time and it's over budget. So when he says that these are projects that we demand, I'm not entirely certain that's true.
Another question?
My question was,
Yes.
Mr. Clark, somewhere in my wanderings, and this always irritates me, but somewhere in my wanderings, I came across some information that said that during the time that you have been commissioner, the commissioners themselves have given themselves a substantial raise that nobody else in the county got anything close to that. And that was something that I had heard while I was putzing around in these days.
I think you're probably referring to because we can't set our own salaries.
Right, but you facilitated, there's somebody there that allows you to have a bigger raise than the rest of the county has.
Not necessarily. No, commissioner salaries are set as far as they are, and they have, and we wish you could see her face. She's like, liar. No, let me, I'm gonna need more than 10 seconds. I'm gonna take more than 10, is that okay? I'll take more than 10 seconds. If I can really explain. So, how this works is that commissioner salaries are the only ones that cannot be set by themselves in the term that they're in. So you are correct, you can affect future salaries. The commissioner's salaries when, 8 years ago when I came, the commissioner's salaries had been looked at, I believe, in 2000 was the last time there had been an adjustment. When I came to office in 07, I think in 07, 08, somewhere in there, we were really having trouble retaining and recruiting folks for all the jobs in the county. So we undertook a salary survey, as far as we looked at all the other comparables. We worked our way through every single department, every position, and we committed that whatever that was, people should be paid fairly as far as for their work. We implemented that. In 2010, so that was over a 2-year period, we looked at the other elected officials, did the same thing. We looked at what was comparable around, we looked at our comparable counties and what they were. We set those salaries, we made the adjustments to those. The last ones that got done is they went through the exact same process as far as, and came back, and again, the commissioner's salaries had not been adjusted since 2000. So they were way behind, and so I think we did end up with, I want to say it was about 16% is what the change was. It is, but not over that period of time. That's what it was, and it was. And so in 2010, it took effect in, I think, 2011 is when that took effect. And so if you're going over that time period, yeah, that's true. If you looked at the regular employees over that same period of time, it was about a 32% increase for them.
That's pretty good. One more question.
So you're correct, but it could be skewed a little bit.
Just one more comment.
Okay.
How's that radio program going?
How's it going?
Yeah, how's it going? Is it working well?
It's up and running. All 7 power sites, 9 power sites.
So Mr. Richards has about 90 seconds left.
He does.
Answer any questions if you'd like to use that.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say about the salaries is, and this is something I've been saying the entire time, for the executives in the county to set their own salaries, regardless of how it was done or anything like that, is really ridiculous. I mean, what other situation do you have where executives set their own salaries? One of the things I want to do, and this is provided for by Washington state law, is something called the Salary Review Board, and it's an independent board. It takes the power of setting your salaries away from the commissioners and gives it to an independent board that don't have a stake in. It's a 10-person board, so it takes the power away from them and puts it in an independent, and they don't just do it for the commissioners, they do it for all the county employees. So that's the only thing I would say about that. And I think we should be
Okay, we will now move on to the Klickitat County prosecuting.
There's no provisions for.
On to the Klickitat County prosecuting attorney's race between Lori Hocker and David Cannell. Lori Hocker is up first.
Hello, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I took office about 3.5 years ago, and I took office promising to do 3 things. Reduce the outsourcing, which was a flow of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, increase our conviction rates, and restore victim confidentiality. We hear a lot about connection to the community, we hear about roots. Why is that important? There's a reason why we live where we live, and it's because we don't want to be in the city. And in doing that, it's a connection to the community. I am in this community. My husband has been in this community his entire life. There's been some things about him not liking cattlemen and things like that. You can't find a person that is more dedicated to cattle or cattlemen than my husband. But we don't believe we're special because we're cattlemen. One of the most troubling things just came across my desk recently from an officer that wanted to know, cattlemen can't trespass. And that really bothered me. Coming from a wife of a true American cowboy that can rope, he can ride, he makes his living off the land. but he's not special or entitled because of that. He abides by the rules that we all abide by. It's important that the people that you elect reflect your values. When we talk about gun rights and using our discretion, I can let you know that the Second Amendment is important, and I will not enforce any laws passed by the legislature that infringe on those rights. Nor will I set priorities based on what your occupation in life is. If you're a timber guy or you're a cattle guy, one of you isn't going to get charged with trespassing, the other one not. We hear a lot about statistics in this race, and my opponent has made it all about statistics. It's not about the stats, it's about the people in the community. Just for one of the examples, we recently, I was up here with my husband in the pouring rain at someone's house helping him move cattle. We had two individuals and a young woman in a car, and they were chasing through the county. The cops were following them. We arrested them. The cops were able to apprehend those individuals. We arrested them, we put them in jail. My opponent says, oh, that's wrong, you should not charge on PC. Had we not did that, those people would have been released into the community, and it would have been months before we apprehended them, if ever. We were able to apprehend them. One was sentenced to 84 months in prison, the other 2 years as a juvenile. We declined to prosecute as a juvenile. The other we just picked up on a warrant because they were released. There's issues in the community that are important, and there's issues that affect our safety, and I pledge to you that those are what are going to take my priority. And we have limited resources, and we have to use those resources wisely. We're not going to prosecute every single crime, and I'm not going to be afraid to dismiss crimes because it's going to make my stats look bad. I'm not in a big city, I'm not driven by stats, I'm driven by people. And I'm with you, I'm here in the communities, I'm accessible, and I understand the needs of the community. I'm someone who has prosecuted trespass cases, and I've sat with the individuals where we work out restitution figures on cattle, on processing, and I understand it. I encourage you, if you have questions, come talk to me. Thank you.
Hey, David Cannell.
My name is David Cannell. I'm running for county prosecutor as a concerned citizen. I grew up in Idaho. I did not grow up here. I think a lot of people you heard from didn't grow up here. But nonetheless, I grew up in Idaho in the Twin Falls, Jerome area. Anyone familiar with that? It's quite beautiful. And then ended up in high school in Yuma. Went to college at the University of Washington. I was born in Pullman. So I still get static from that from my cousins. Who was a professor at Washington State. He doesn't let me let that down. Ended up spending a year as a teacher and then went to law school at NYU. And been an attorney for about 20, it's going on a while now. I want to thank my wife. She's been with me the whole time since we were 19, and it is the last one. And every candidate, trust me, is smiling inside when they write that. And so, I started practicing a while ago back east. I did corporate litigation at a large firm for a while. Clerk for a federal judge, which is a temporary employment situation that's highly sought after. And then decided that both my wife and I, she grew up in a small town in Mexico, I grew up in a small town in Idaho. We wanted to get to a small town. When we lived in Seattle, we did a lot of traveling through this area because I have a family just all the way from Baker City, La Grande, up to Walla Walla and Pullman. So we knew this area. We came here years ago. We just built everything from scratch. Spent a year as a prosecutor under a previous administration in Goldendale, just doing about every kind of case I have. And then decided to start my own firm. Worked out in another attorney's office in Goldendale for a couple years. He got himself elected judge, so I had to find a new place to work. And now I work in Lyle. I don't know. I'm probably one of the few people that has the joy of taking that road from Lyle to here. It's a great drive in the twilight. Get along with here, though. I've been doing a lot of family law and criminal defense since then. And the reason I'm running as a concerned citizen, I've been approached from a lot of different folks, from law enforcement and different attorneys and clerks, kind of explaining, especially on the criminal side and all aspects on the civil side of what's been going on in the last 4 years is a real breakdown. When I looked into it, it's not just statistics, it's facts, that we have the longest case delays, the highest dismissal rates, the lowest conviction rates in the entire state of Washington. I don't think that's okay. I think a lot of people, when they look at the door, they see situations that reflect that, and they don't find that to be okay. That's why I'm running. I have the cross-section, I believe, of support of the community. I think I've made political history in that I have defense attorneys and members of law enforcement, the unionized members of the sheriff's department and going to the police department coming out to support me. That you got defense attorneys and law enforcement that can agree on the same thing, that there needs to be a change, and I'm the most qualified to do that. I believe that makes an impact. Some people find that amusing. I've heard a lot of talk about, prosecutors shouldn't be tied to the hip of law enforcement. I'm not even sure what that means. There's communication and collaboration that are key to hold people accountable that harm others. And that's why I'm running, to restore accountability and hold accountable those that harm others in an open and efficient and transparent manner. Thank you.
So Ms. Hocker, you have 2 minutes for questions or rebuttal.
I would think of being in the hip of law enforcement and making decisions about people's lives, and that, are you looking at drugs and alcohol as a health issue, or are you looking to pipeline jail time? And, you have a county that is full of domestic violence. What's the intention? Prosecute, charge, that's money.
So right now is Lori's opportunity for 2 minutes. Is there a question there for her?
Well, for both. How are you looking at the people? These are people's lives and families that you're affecting. And the idea that you want to buck up a charge or you want to buck up this prosecute, that costs money. And with 504, this thing that the voters in Washington did was say we were done spending money on prosecuting. And I want to know, is the intention that drugs and alcohol are a health issue, or is this going to continue on wasting money with a criminal issue? It's many questions, but it's like kind of on that tip of whether, people, the good old boys club, and how that falls on all levels of this.
Okay, if we could give the candidates an opportunity to respond.
I'm a little confused on the question, but are you talking about alternative courts, or are you talking about?
Yeah, what's available? How are people being dealt? Mental health issue, domestic violence, drugs and alcohol. How are we doing? Pipeline to jail or pipeline to treatment?
One of the big issues that we're facing is a reduction of our resources, and allocation of resources is huge. We're seeing it at the state level, and it's important that we pay attention at the state level because they're mandating things like education and it costs money. So when it trickles down to us, when we're putting people in prison, they're kicking them out because there's not enough room in our prison. There's not enough room in our jails. And since I took office, I've kept the jails at capacity. We're putting people behind bars. I have the most experienced, exceptional attorneys trying the cases. They've tried over hundreds of cases, and they're winning. So when people say, why do the defense attorneys not like me? Well, they're not making as much money because we win it. But it's important that we not just win. It's important that we look at what's going to benefit our community. So, for example, drug courts. If we're looking at an individual that has a drug problem, we're going to give them the opportunity to get clean, to get sober. If they can't get clean and get sober and make their restitution, they're going to go to prison. But we're going to give them the opportunity, if they want to get clean, because in the long run, that's going to affect our community and have a larger impact. We hold them accountable if they can't get clean and they can't get sober and they can't pay their restitution. But we give them the opportunity first to clean up their community. And if that means dismissals, if that means delays in justice, I'm okay with that because I think that's better for our community. Mental health courts, we have limited access to that, and what we're seeing in our community are crimes based on two things, drugs and mental health issues. So instead of just incarcerating when we have limited funds and then they just kick them back into the community, we need to look at real lasting solutions. How can we work with these people? Another thing we work a lot with is mediation services. We see a lot because we're small communities, and you don't get away from the fact that everybody knows one another. You get into no contact order situations, domestic violence situations. You get a divorce and you get upset with somebody. A lot of times, their first reaction is to use the legal system. I'm going to call the cops on you. It's going to help me in my divorce. It's going to help me in my custody. In our community, because we know the people, we can work with them. We can send them to mediation. Our first reaction is not incarcerate them. And our first reaction on drugs, offenses, mental health, people with mental health, is to look at what can we do to make the community stronger and what's going to benefit the people in the long run.
Only a fool denies that diversions and drug courts are a cost-effective alternative for dealing with recidivists. The question, though, is not just, it's not an either or, a black or white, or just lock them away or be a social worker and try to make them feel better. It depends on what they've done and what they've done in their past. If they've broken in your house and they've done it before, I don't care if they're on drugs or not. I want them removed from society for as long as possible so they don't do it again. If you have a first-time offender, if there's someone with recent history, then of course the drug court and alternative should be given. But to make a social experiment, to use the government to make criminals feel better about themselves, if you have a lifelong history of criminality, I'm going to treat you like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Clickatack County Sheriff's Race. Bob Songer and Mark Boardman. First up is Bob Songer.
Mark, how are you doing? Get it a little light here. Anyway, I want to thank Terry, and I want to thank Jay for putting this debate on tonight. I think it's a good deal. We've got a full crowd, and we even have local citizens here, and they're not sized up with one candidate or the other. So that's a good deal. I know we're short of time. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know that we're short of time, and so given that, I'm going to jump right in. I think the reason I'm running for sheriff is because I honestly believe that I can better manage the department resources, improve the morale within the agency, and provide a better service to the citizens of Clickatack County. And I base that on my experience. Got 40 years in law enforcement, 14 and a half years in top management in law enforcement. I served as undersheriff, well actually, chief civil deputy, chief criminal, undersheriff, in a 20 and a half year span in Clark County Commission. Last 6.5 years as undersheriff. We had 281 employees, $14 million budget, and 350-bed jail facility. I was responsible to the sheriff for the overall operations of the region. Fast forward, I won't go into all of my experience because I know we're short of time. Then I served as police chief in Elton, Nevada for 4 years. I had 52 employees, a $3.2 million budget. And in those management positions, I've been in the trench as a manager. I've been there and done it. I've hired people and I've had to fire people. I've negotiated union contracts, dealt with labor relation issues, and so forth. So I've got the experience, even though it may be some time ago, but if it's like riding a bicycle, once you learn how, you don't forget it. I've got that experience and I'll bring it to the table. My education is a 2-year degree and an associate's degree in administration justice from the Clark College in Vancouver, a bachelor's degree in administration justice from the University of Portland, and a master's degree in criminal justice from the University of Portland, Portland, Oregon. Washington Basic Law Enforcement Academy, Nevada State Basic Law Enforcement Academy, FBI National Academy. And you don't get into the FBI National Academy, you have to be a supervisor above to attend a 3-month academy. I'm very proud of those things. But what I'm most proud of is the supporters I see here in the crowd, the supporters out there that couldn't make it here tonight, and the law enforcement supporters. I'm very blessed to have the union law enforcement officers and deputies. And the Clickatack County, that's sergeants, deputies. We're running out of time? Okay. Anyway, the law enforcement, first time in Clickatack County history, and I'm very proud to have that support. And over 600 citizens have endorsed it. So I'm very pleased with that outcome. If you haven't voted yet, I need you to vote November 4th. Thank you.
I do quickly want to say, I know we all want to embrace free I said, it's a small town. I think we've all been seeing lots of letters written to the paper. And I think many of us feel like it's gotten pretty toxic, and pretty negative. And would appreciate some civility, some respect for these people that are willing to get up here and run for public office.
Garbage up front.
No, never. No woman will ever stop speaking.
I think
His
we're
record
saying
is
the following
appalling.
dog.
Let's
Appalling.
I'm Mark Boardman, Republican running for sheriff. I've been your undersheriff for the last 14 months. I appreciate Terry and Jay and Kay for making this all possible for us to get out here and get a little bit acquainted. So a little bit about me, because I'm not familiar with a lot of you, I want to give you a little bit of idea about where I came from. Native of Washington, born and raised over the Puget Sound area. Been married for 32 years. My wife and I have 7 grandchildren, 5 children. My oldest is raising her family up in Yakima. My second oldest is raising her kids in, she and her husband are raising her family in Goldendale. I got a son that's a junior up in Central. He's pursuing clinical physiology. My 4th child, he just graduated valedictorian of his class in Goldendale, and he's over in Whitworth, and he's studying to be an educator. And then the 5th child, I've got a son that's still in school over there at Goldendale. He's an athlete and junior in his year. So that's a little bit about me. You know, it's interesting that we find so much about family. I'm still drawing connections. I found there was a connection with a guy that works on my car that's connected to Dave Sauter just today. So, you know, everybody seems to be connected in some shape or another. As far as career goes, I served 28 years in the Washington State Patrol. I served on both sides of the Cascades. I'm a collision reconstructionist. I served on a SWAT team. I've been a drug recognition expert. I've been considered an expert witness and give testimony in a number of different courts in Washington State. I'm still an accredited collision reconstructionist on a national level with ACCAR. During the course of my career, I've received numerous awards and different letters of commendation from judges, from attorneys, from prosecutors, commanders, so on and so forth. So all of that said, that's where I'm coming from. What I've been doing for the last 14 months is been doing a number of things. I've got a list. Because time's short, I won't go into that lengthy list, but I've made a lot of accomplishments already in 14 months as your undersheriff. And I want to continue those as your sheriff. I believe that the workforce has changed, though. I think that management, even though bicycle riding is relevant to, in some cases, the job has changed quite a bit since 1990. And so because of the workforce, because of rules and regulations taken by the federal and state government, because of union laws and rules and regulations, all those things change the work environment. But what I want to do for you is 2 things. My 2 priorities as your sheriff will be to get accreditation, earn that for Clickitat County Sheriff's Office through the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. That raises the standard from an external standpoint as to what is acceptable and checks and balances. The second thing that I want to work on is through protecting your children. I've already been active with a number of different coalitions, Classic, JAG, and the Juvenile Probation Office, working to make things better with our schools through diversion, through prevention, and through prosecution. And there is no, it's already been addressed here, there's no single approach that's going to work in all cases, but the more that we can do that to protect our kids and keep them from becoming part of that cycle of addiction, which fuels all the crimes, we're going to make a bit more headway. So thank you. And,
Okay, so 2 minutes for Mr. Songbird.
Yes, my name's Eddie Cole. My family's been here from Alder Creek to Houston since the 1880s. I have a couple of concerns. You say that you're going to do away with the undersheriff job and do other things with the money. My question is, what are you going to do with that money? My other question is, say for instance, you at your age would have a heart attack and die, because I'm concerned with two things. First Amendment and Second Amendment. That we have those, and there's somebody, the leader of the county, so to speak, is taking care of those. So those might be questions. What are you going to do with that money? And what would take place? Who would take over the sheriffs if something happened to you at your age?
Okay, very good question. In fact, I appreciate you asking me that. The money. I would eliminate the undersheriff position and possibly one other chief position. Okay? I'd utilize that money, not just to spend it on other things. It would go into an overtime budget. Instead of us having 1 or 2 officers on patrol during the shift, we would have a standard minimum. So that sergeant would use the overtime money to call in the officers to work the shift. So rather than Gleenwood seeing a deputy occasionally, they would see him more often. And so would Alderdale, so would the central area. It would give us better staffing, more people out on the street, and we got 2 managers, we've got 17 deputies, total of 42 employees, counting Bill and so forth. And so why are we so top heavy? It's ridiculous. We need to utilize that money, shorten that management staff, because as a sheriff, I'll be there 24/7, working as a sheriff. I don't have a part-time business to do, and I'll make sure that I am the sheriff of this county. Now, to answer your other question, what happens if I have a heart attack? I hope you're not reading tea leaves or something. If I have a heart attack, the next one in line, chief criminal deputy takes over. The other sheriff's just a title. The next in command would be the chief criminal, and that person would take over. I hope I've answered it.
All we have time for. Mr. Gordon?
Rebuttal to that question. The elimination of the undersheriff, I think, would be a faulty move. There are a number of responsibilities that I have, and I can, if anybody wants to take a look at the list of things that just the undersheriff did with his staff this year, it's right here. So eliminating that position, you assuming that responsibility, either yourself as a sheriff or as other people in your staff going to take that on. But this is part of the difference between 25 years ago and 2014. There's a huge amount of responsibility. There's this huge amount of administrative and legal requirements that we're obliged to comply with. So to assume that you're going to eliminate a top management position and everybody else is going to absorb that is not realistic. Moreover, when you take that money and put it in overtime, by the way, we don't have 17 deputies. We're funded for 17, but we only have 15, including the 3 sergeants. And we've got one in the academy, and the second one that was supposed to go to the academy with them backed out last minute, so we're in the process of hiring a lateral. But that aside, we are making every effort to staff as many people on the road and get them distributed where they're going to be the most efficient and provide the greatest number of service to the constituents. And part of that will be through better efficiencies, like the MDTs that we're going to have, these wireless computers that are going to eliminate a lot of the back and forth time traveling back and forth from a call to the sheriff's office, because now we can send the reports wirelessly. So, and that saves on fuel. But putting all these people on overtime on the peak nights is not going to last. That's not a long-term solution. Long-term solution would be hiring more deputies. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. I think we got the tough ones behind us. So we now move on to look at that county treasurer, an uncontested race, Greg Gallagher.
So hello, I just want to take a couple minutes to introduce myself to everybody, and thank you guys for putting this on. And like I say, this is a great turnout. This is having been to any of these compared to all the other folks. Good turnout. I'm Greg Gallagher, and I'm running for Clicktack County Treasurer. I'd like to put my background and my knowledge to work for my community. I've held numerous positions with various public and private organizations. I worked at the PUD and helped install some renewable energy projects in the county. I was in the telecom sector. I'm a graduate of Central Washington University. I have a bachelor's degree in finance. I'm currently working in the treasurer's office with Danny, who's the elected treasurer, to understand and gain a comprehensive knowledge of all the pieces and parts that are going into the, of the workings of the office, and trying to get an understanding of the flow and learn the processes. Once elected, I will collectively work with the other departments, elected officials, commissioners, to find positive solutions to the challenges that we will face. I appreciate your guys' time tonight. I don't want to take up a ton of time, so I thank you and thanks.
Any questions for Greg? Okay, thank you. All right, now moving on to PUD number 1, Utility Commissioner, position number 3 between Dan Gunkel and Sherry Carver. Dan, first you're up.
Thanks for the opportunity to have a conversation with you this evening. My name is Dan Gunkel. I am your current PUD Commissioner from District 3, and I am up for re-election. My experiences and my qualifications are as follows. I spent 23.5 years as your PUD Commissioner, 20 years on the Executive Board of Energy Northwest. 8 of those years I spent as the Chairman of the Nuclear Oversight and Safety Committee. My family and I are in the fruit growing business at Maryhill, Washington. We are 3 generations deep and heavily invested in this county. I thoroughly understand the need for stable rates going forward as well as reliability. Looking at the PUD from a financial perspective and the economic crisis that the country endured in 2010 and into 11, as well as the integration of 7,000 megawatts of wind energy into the BPA grid in this region, put the PUD into financial distress as a result of the weakened electricity markets. As a result of that, the board implemented sweeping restructuring and cut staff. As a result of those drastic measures and a host of new financial policies and tools that were implemented, the PUD came out of that recession and out of a tough energy market, which we are still enduring to some extent, with a solid A rating. That's important to you because the A rating ensures that we can borrow money at low cost interest rates going forward if necessary. In addition to that, we are under pressure constantly from the Bonneville Power Administration on our wholesale power rates. Since 1995, the BPA has raised the PUD's wholesale rates 75%. The PUD has only passed along 24% of those rate increases. The net difference, the net result is money that's left in all of your pockets to the tune of $24 million. In addition to that, your current rates are 14% less than they would have been otherwise. That differential has been made up by 4 projects the board has invested in over the years. 3 out of the 4 projects are making money every year. The 4th will bear fruit as things move forward and the energy market recovers. In closing, I would just like to say that my experience, my qualifications, my leadership are key assets and key attributes for the job of PUD Commissioner. Thank you, and I ask you for your vote.
Hi, I'm Sherry Carver. I sent a mail out to everybody, so I think you know who I am, and that I've been in this area for 40-plus years. I want to thank my husband. We're just about ready to celebrate our 41st anniversary, and he has been my greatest supporter and advocate going forward on this run. I have a couple of things that I want to bring up. I've talked at several different candidates' nights. We talked about our PUD. Dan's indicated we've had some troubled times. But we've also had some information that has been disseminated from our PUD that has not been correct. And so I just want to bring some of this up. You know, we all get the rule. This came this August, and it was about our Moss Adams report. Hadn't even been presented to the board yet. I was really shocked actually when I read it. It's like, oh my gosh, I get to actually read this information and it hasn't even come to the commissioners. So anyway, this said that we had $297 million in assets. And Dan in the last two candidates nights, didn't tonight, said we had 50% ownership. Wouldn't we be proud of that? But when the actual Moss Adams report came out, and this is also on the website, we only have $277 million in assets. So it's 20 million less. And they say we have a net position, and I don't know if anybody understands that language, net position, but that's the difference between your assets and your liabilities. And that net position is $100.3 million. And so that gives us 36% investment in our community. That's what we own. And it's taken us 76 years to get there. So we have a huge debt. We have a huge responsibility. If I'm elected to be your PUD commissioner, I will bring integrity and honesty to this job. I will make sure that you, those who own our PUD, know exactly where we stand. The information that comes from the PUD will be accurate information. And you know, I just think that we need to restore that faith in our politicians, that the ones that you elect serve you well, tell you the truth, and do it with integrity. And I feel like I can bring that job to you, and I can do that. So I'm going to ask that when you have your ballots out in front of you, to please vote for me, Sherry Carver. I will represent you
So 2 minutes, Dan, for questions and rebuttal.
I do need to rebut what was just said. The audited results that I quoted up from were 2013 audited results. What I said was there is $297 million in plant and service for your PUD. In that report, it also stated there's $133 million in debt, in long-term tax-free debt. Those are the facts that came out of the audited report for 2013. And in addition to that, the peer study that was done by Fitch, you will find that KPUD is right in the middle of this peer group as far as debt to equity ratios. And it has right at 49%. So it depends on what numbers you use and how you apply them. We all know that accounting practices and principles and how you put numbers together can vary depending on what year and what information you are using. The facts that I gave out are accurate. The facts that you get from your PUD are accurate. We go to community meetings, commissioners and top management every year, and we present the high-level fundamentals, as you all are aware. So, are there any other questions?
Can I have a rebuttal to that?
Sure. Okay, move on to Sherry.
The facts are from PUD. These are from our website. This is the Moss Adams report, and it is 2013. This is the latest results they audit in the past year. So the 297 I haven't found anywhere, million. But the Moss Adams report from the PUD website says 277 million. And the net position, which I'm not sure who writes, but the article that you put in and you signed said we have a net position of 100.3. So the difference between 277, which is the Moss Adams report, and our net position of 100.5 million is 36%.
Those numbers aren't accurate. It's a different report.
It's Moss Adams.
Well, the report I was referring to was the state auditor's report.
Oh, well, the
For
August,
2013.
this August says Moss Adams. This says Moss Adams. They both do.
We have two auditors that audit the PUD.
Okay. I haven't seen them say that. Anyway.
Any questions for Sherry? Thank you very much, both of you.
Oh,
Oh, we got a question right there. Sorry.
I was curious, for Sherry, what direction do you see yourself going as a PUD commissioner, or what do you see that you would do to make the PUD a better place for us, the owners?
In 30 seconds or less.
I feel like I'd be bringing loyalty back to our PUD employees. I bring honesty and integrity to the job. As a builder, I learned how to think outside the box. Sometimes the answers to the questions are not as easy, and that's something that I've been trained to do, is look for answers. And our PUD is going to need somebody that can look for these answers, because we are challenged financially. And until, like Dan said, we have regulators that are regulating our rates right now, and until some of this changes, that's going to continue to be a threat to our PUD and our rates. But I will be honest. I will tell you that we lost $1.3 million this summer. I won't tell you that it's the EPA that's going to create that increase. I will be honest.
Okay, I'm going to jump to the Clickitat County Park and Rec District number 2, proposition number 1, and then after that, Jeff Baker, because he's not. You want to say anything, Jeff? No?
That's okay, Tom.
I'm Tom Reynolds, and I'm a commissioner with the Mount Islands Parks and Rec District, and I'm not running for office. However, I am here to inform you about a levy that the Rec District is running this year. 4 years ago, the Rec District was formed by a vote of the voters in West Clickitat County. Unfortunately, for the Rec District at that time, the voters turned down a levy request. Therefore, we have a commission with no money, which some people might say that's a good thing, but it doesn't give you any way to do your job. And so now, excuse me, my voice a little bit. At this point, we're asking for a levy of 19 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. Now, being that you have a $200,000 piece of real estate, it would cost you $38 a year. It's for 6 years. At the end of 6 years, you can decide whether or not you want to renew it or not. Of course, the question is, what are you going to do with that money? Well, what we need to do is to get someone on staff that can write grants and take the money that we're getting from you folks and expanding it by private and public grants that we know are out there. Over the last 4 years. We know these grants are there. We can't get them because we have no way, no administration to be able to go out and get these grants and expand that money. The programs that we're trying to institute are things that benefit mostly our youth. In White Salmon, there's a swimming pool. It's in existence. Sometime it's going to have to be remodeled, or an indoor pool perhaps in the future. Kids from Gleenwood need to be able to learn to swim. I think almost everybody can agree to that. We need transportation for kids to get down there to do it, and this is what some of these monies could be used for. Whatever the communities can present to the commission for what programs that they feel are important could then be voted on by the commission to determine whether they could be funded, and then if they're funded, then those programs could be put into effect. It's a matter of the health of our community, for the good of our children, and also the good of our adults. There's a lot of people that walk or exercise anymore. They don't have decent places to walk. They need some trails. And by the way, trails will not condemn anybody's property. If you don't want anybody walking over your property, it's absolutely your right to not have people walk over your property. But those that do want to have trails over their property or have access along roads, this is what some of these funds can be used for. In a few days, you'll be receiving a postcard in the mail that will more specifically outline what some of these programs are for. But I urge you to think about the youth of the community, think about the adults, think about the senior citizens, and I'm hoping that you might see fit to fund our program. Thank you very much. Any questions?
As a mom of four, we have, from 13 years old to 2 years old. Maybe I'm just naive, but I'm not sure what the funding is going to, because we have the youth center, which is funded by YGAP, right?
I don't know about you.
And then we have some youth sports, but then after that, we need to play sports or go on the streets, and that kind of thing. And so, what exactly is this money going for? What can I look forward to? So my daughter Amy, who's 2, I can say, wow, this thing was swimming, or the rec center, or whatever. I'm not sure what exactly
Okay, the community could come up with programs, and for instance, okay, say, I don't know if you have a playground here, it's probably a school
we live in
playground.
White Sand.
Oh, you live in White Sand.
We live in Benj and White Sand.
Okay, well, then you have the pool situation down there.
Which is ongoing.
Which is ongoing catastrophe, and it needs to be settled down and have a decent place for kids to learn to swim. Here in Glenwood, we've got a school. The idea would be the rec commission could work with the school. If the school needs money for things like playground equipment, stuff that can be used by the youth of the community year-round, those are programs that this money would go towards.
So like programs for saying, like we have after-school programs like CLC and that kind of thing, but like if you're not old enough, what do you do then? Like having maybe open gym, that kind of stuff?
Well, that's the idea. You come up with the ideas, and if you have the funding, then those ideas can be put into action. But if you don't have the funding, those ideas are never going to be put into action. Yes, sir.
So, it sounds nice, but every government agency I know is in debt. And is it really government's job to entertain us? When I was a kid, my dad took me down the river during the summer, threw me in the river. That's how I learned to swim.
That's a good point. And a lot of these programs, people say, well, why can we privately fund them? The problem is, it's not being funded. People aren't coming forward now with their own, just saying, okay, we're going to fund this ourselves. That would be great if that could happen. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And so therefore, you have to have some mechanism set forth to take a little bit